China is aggressive, but they are building, nobody is preventing them from constructing artificial islands and all those things, because nobody can do that also. But China is aggressively using its militia. So South China Sea, many times questions have been asked by UPSC. I don't think they will ask, but you never know because of the Cold War. The next lecture I'll be talking about US-China Cold War and East China Sea, China Taiwan problems a lot. So I just want to this as an appetizer for that. Without this, that will be meaningless, because I'll be referring to a lot of time in South China Sea dispute. So South China Sea, as you can see the map. So when we say Indochina Peninsula means that is Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos are part of the so-called Indochina Peninsula. So now South China Sea, as you can see that South China Sea is geographically we call it as a marginal sea. So because it's not completely enclosed sea, but it is open to Sunda Strait, which is open to Indian Ocean, and it is also through this narrow straits, it's also connected to Pacific Ocean. So it is geographical terminologies are not important for us at all, but it is become the very important hotspot and part of US Indo-Pacific strategy to contain China, to prevent China from rising as a global power. So why South China Sea is obviously when there is only when some economic importance is there, that area becomes important. That's why I said India wants to develop a naval base, though we don't want to call it near the Mozambique Channel. The choke points are always very important. So this is the area. China is a world's factory. Japan, Korean Peninsula, around 75% of global trade. All the Japan and Korea also do not have energy resources. All of them come from West Asia, and their exports back to Asia, Southeast Asia, and Europe, West Asia. All of them also go via this. Around 75% of the global trade passes through this South China Sea. That is why it is very important. So it is also believed to have a lot of reserves of oil and gas, believed to have. So obviously anybody who controls it, exclusive economic zone, only they have the right to have to explore oil and gas in this area, hydrocarbon reserves in this area. That is secondary important. The primary thing is the volume of trade which goes through this particular area, which is the world's biggest sea lanes of most important sea lanes of communication, SLOC. That is why we keep on talking about the joint statements in Quad. We always talk about freedom of navigation and the rule of law in sea lanes of communication, etc. So the world's busiest sea lane of communication is South China Sea. And the third important, not so important factor is it also contains a lot of fishing reserves. So again, many people, as you can see, very shallow seas. So almost 1/3 of the global fishing reserves are situated in South China Sea. Again, exclusive economic zone, it becomes a key factor because only those countries can then fish in that area. So it has been, a lot of disputes are there as is part of, China always traditionally says that this one medieval era Chinese naval commander has found out all these islands, and therefore it belongs to them. That is what I don't want to go to back to history. That is Chinese history. We are not going to become part of the Chinese history. So the islands in this area which are under dispute. So one of the positive things why it can be without American interference, I think this issue can be easily resolved because the islands here are not uninhabited. So no people live in these islands. So you can see in the map there are no bigger islands here. So the two things which are there are Paracel Islands and Spratly. I will try to show them in the map, and Spratly Island. These are the two major groups. Hundreds of islands are there inside the South China Sea. One inside the northern side, one is slightly southern side. But none of the islands people live permanently. So let us see whether we can have that South China Sea. So it's too small to be shown on the map, so it may not be there. Let me check it out. Spratly Islands. Yeah. Okay. So they are showing Spratly Islands. So you can see that. So Spratly Islands is here. So you can see the disputed parties are mainland China, Taiwan, which claims that it is a real China. In the next lecture, I will talk about this Chinese island, Taiwan. And here Philippines is there. And here Vietnam is there. South of that, we have got Malaysia and we have got Brunei. So all these countries are, say, claim at least some part of Spratly Island. China claims the whole Spratly Islands as its own territory. So this is Spratly Islands. Geographically, you can remember China, Taiwan, Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, Vietnam are the claimants to Spratly Islands. Then Paracel Islands, which are slightly north of this. Okay, this is Paracel Islands. As you can see, they are north of Spratly Islands. They are claimed by China, Taiwan. More importantly, Vietnam has a much stronger claim over Paracel Islands. With Paracel Islands, they had a naval fight also in the 70s, in which till that time some of the islands were under the control of Vietnam. Then Chinese captured those islands. In that fight, around 70 naval personnel of Vietnam also got killed in that fight. So this is slightly to the northern side, Paracel Island. These are the two important places where there is a dispute, territorial dispute there. It is an anticipation of the future resources, hydrocarbon resources and the fishing resources of that area. And maybe, see, in only in territorial waters, the ships cannot go. Other country ships, if they come, they have to ask the permission of that country. In exclusive economic zone, ships can navigate. There is no bar on that. That is what natural law, international law is all about. But US projects is as if China will block all the countries, Japan or Korea or US ships cannot go there. So it's just rubbish. It's just and Indian media foolishly, slavishly follow whatever comes in that media without understanding what the real problem is. There is no threat to freedom of navigation, even if in future China claims all this area as this thing. So roughly, I'll just draw a map and schematic diagram and what are exactly Chinese claims over it. So let's say China says this is something like a 9-dot line. There are 9 dots in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 9 dash line. 9 dot line. So this is Chinese southern mainland there. So this is South China Sea. In South China Sea, they claim something like a 9 dash line. So this will, if other countries accept this, whole of Paracel Islands, whole of Spratly Islands. So if other countries accept Chinese claims, then China will get 90% of South China Sea as its exclusive economic zone. The fight over these islands for China is not hydrocarbon, not fishing. I'm not sure about the claims of hydrocarbon research. I think it's a gimmick. I don't think it's real. But it will give them control over the 90% of exclusive economic zone in South China Sea. This is what the maximum Chinese claims. This 9 dash line claim predates Chinese Communist Party coming to power in 1949. It is a claim from Chinese imperial time, and later when Kuomintang was ruling China, also this was a claim of that. That is why Taiwan also wants this. Taiwan also believes, not only China, Taiwan also believes in this 9 dash line, which came from that time period. So now China has not only has control over most of the islands. I don't know whether to call them islands, shoals, dots on the, you can say sand dots in the ocean. China has built artificial islands. China has got money. China has got technology. China has built artificial islands of around 3,500 acres in many places in South China Sea. Their ships will have equipment to scoop sand from the ocean and put it in one particular place to fill it up. That's how China is building artificial island also outside the Colombo port for the Colombo Port City IFC project. 3,500 acres have been filled so far by China, and more are also being created by China in South China Sea to further buttress their claims. And not only that, China says why we are building artificial islands. They have built lighthouses. So they say it will be helpful for the fishermen, not only Chinese fishermen, other fishermen in times of this is the area which is in the typhoon belt. So whenever a typhoon comes, they can come and shelter in this place, and it will help them in guidance and protecting them or safeguarding them or saving them at the time of typhoons. And not, of course, this is climb. In reality, it is to further their claims over South China Sea. Whole of them, as I said, is part of that 9-policy. China has also built in some of the islands, not in all, airstrips, so that their planes or helicopters can land. This is to protect their claims. Their, if at all any war comes, China, US is not a claimant. US is not a ASEAN country at all. Is a extra regional power there. So whereas this building up of these airstrips, which they say it is for not for military purposes, though it is obviously not so. So this is leading to militarization of South China Sea. And US says that if at all China's claims are accepted, US doesn't want ASEAN countries to accept this claim. But China is militarily stronger than all the countries put together. So if China is, Chinese claims are accepted by other countries, then China will impose its own regulations on the exclusive economic zone, and the freedom of navigation will be affected. And that's why countries like Japan and Korea, whose energy resources and whose exports also pass through this, are also become interested in the dispute. They don't want China's hegemony or dominance over South China Sea. So this Chinese claims have been, as I said, historical. It's not that suddenly Xi Jinping has created this problem. No, definitely not. This, as I said, from Chinese Ming last dynasty period onwards, because during medieval period, Chinese says that one of their naval commanders is the one who came to all this area, surveyed all this area, and therefore it belongs to them. So these claims are been there for pretty long time, and but in the last few years, so as I said, a lot of trade passes through. I'll give data also. Around 3.4 trillion, not billion. That is bigger than the size of Indian economy. 3.4 trillion worth of goods pass through. So not 3.5, somewhere around it is. That is the old data. Now closer to 4 trillion goods annually pass through South China Sea. And not only 75% of the trade, 40% of global gas trade is also transited, because now China, Japan, they are all shifting to gas now these days. So this is the biggest problem there. But ASEAN countries individually, as I said, are not powerful enough to do. So what happens is US doesn't want identified this as a potential hotspot to create problem, because they don't want China to destabilize China. Containment of China, you need to create trouble for China, whether with Japan or with India or with ASEAN countries. So this is an already existing problem which has come as a handy tool for American policymakers to project China as a villain. Though I am not saying China is without blame, because when they become stronger, they want this thing, and now they are much stronger in the last 10 years or so. So US has become very close to Vietnam. So Vietnam is a communist country even today. Just imagine, in 1960s they were defeated by the Viet Cong and ran away. And as I said, when the Kabul evacuation was similar to the Saigon evacuation, it created comparisons also. Vietnam is very still close to Soviet Union, not close to China, but still, now to Russia. So that's why India also became closer to Vietnam, as I said, because of the Russia-Soviet Union connections. Vietnam still a communist country, there is no democracy there. Of course, US doesn't bother about democracy when it suits it. Still like one-party communist power. But US and Vietnam have become closer, and US is now giving military aid to Vietnam, because it is the strongest among the Southeast Asian countries, and which had already fought wars with China, and it is very strong in protecting its territorial integrity. And the second area they are focusing upon is Philippines. Philippines, they had bases. Now there are no bases. 20-25 years back, they have closed all the bases. But now again, they are interacting with the Philippines and trying to bring them closer. But unfortunately, the present president, Duterte, is not very close. He and Mr. Trump publicly abused each other, gali diete, with all the choicest bad words also. I don't want to use the word because, as I said, we can use, but I don't want to. So, but now after Biden has come to the Philippines, right now is facing low-grade warfare with China over one particular shoal in Spratly Islands. I will mention that also recently. So, but after Biden has come to power, Philippines US relations have improved, and the Duterte elections are due in 2022, and Duterte under the constitution cannot run for, there's only one term for president in Philippines, he cannot run again. So they expect that after 2022, when the elections take place and the new president takes over, the US-China, US-Philippines relations will improve, and US will start, more military collaboration with Philippines. Maybe it could become part of, they won't like AUKUS, they won't give nuclear submarines, etc. That is reserved only for white Christian English-speaking countries, not for Philippines, which was their colony, which Mongoloid people. But there will be increased military cooperation, maybe more US-Philippine joint military drills. Now US does in South China Sea with Japan, with Australia. They want India also to be part of this kind of military drills, but India so far has refrained from becoming, because it is too far away from India, and India don't want to unnecessarily, as I keep on saying, you should identify what is your core interest and you should focus upon that. India's core interest is revival of economy, nothing else. So what is happening? We are not a party to the dispute. So ASEAN country, China says, as I said, they want code of conduct in South China Sea. They said through negotiations only with ASEAN powers, without any interference of outside powers, we can resolve that dispute. But US says that you are too weak. It is just a ploy by this thing. They will talk for, when at an opportune time, they will claim that the whole thing ours, and if you go there, they will beat you, they will throw you out. So this is US claim, and US tries, but as I said, even there are within ASEAN, there is no united strategy how to deal with China, because not all the countries are involved in the dispute. For example, Thailand is not involved in the dispute. Myanmar is not involved in the dispute. Indonesia is not involved in the dispute. Laos and Cambodia are not involved in the dispute. And many of these countries are very closely allied with that China. So they don't want, why should we antagonize China? China is already doing trading partner, because if China can economically punish us if we get involved directly into it. Even as I said, even the most vocal of the countries, Vietnam, has got enormous deep economic linkages with China. I mentioned about that economic corridor, the shifting of Chinese companies' investment, the trade, the ongoing railway line project, and the long boundary, and tourism, various connects, people to people connect. A lot of Southeast Asian people also go to China for studying. So many things are happening between them, people to people connect, because they are all same Mongoloid origin. Most of the Chinese people in Southeast Asia have come from southern part of China over many centuries before. They identified southern China as their ancestral land. So like as I said, Sinhalese in Sri Lanka identify West Orissa and Bengal as their ancestral land. The same thing is true for most of the Southeast Asian people, because they belong to the same race. So now as I said, it all depends. As I said, ASEAN as a whole wants closer integration with China. They are not bothered about US, because their economic relationship with US is very limited, and over the years the US power has clearly waned and China's power has clearly gained. China is completely occupying almost all the strategic space in Southeast Asia among the ASEAN countries. So many countries within ASEAN who are not party to the dispute want closer integration with China economically, and they are even ready. If China wants code of conduct, why not we give it us? Because that says that we will talk about it and this thing. But some countries like Philippines and Vietnam, which have ongoing fierce disputes with China, are not ready to do so. That's why the code of conduct, which was a draft, was agreed in 2018 but was not signed. Of course, from back end, the US is giving chavi to key to Vietnam and Philippines not to sign it, because it clearly says that outside powers should not be involved in this dispute at all. That clearly, without mentioning US, that means US. No naval exercises of these countries, ASEAN countries, with any other country, including US, without taking permission of all other countries. That includes China, because China will be also signing this agreement with them. So again, as I said, November 20th, I want to wait and see. I don't expect code of conduct to be signed as of now. But definitely that comprehensive strategic agreement will be signed, which will give a big boost to China ASEAN relations, and US will become more marginalized. I said ASEAN, South China Sea is a marginal sea, but US will be more marginalized. As of now, China is aggressive. but they are building, nobody is preventing them from constructing artificial islands and all those things, because nobody can do that also. But China is aggressively using its militia, MILITIA, maritime militia, to further its claims. What is maritime militia? This is not a new factor also. This maritime militia have been operating from 1950s onwards, as China became independent. So these are all maritime militia, or most of them are commercial fishing ships, small fishing ships, not catamaran type ships with refrigeration facility and all. As I said, 1/3 of global fishing reserves are believed to be in China. So they operate from two ports essentially. One, there are two maritime militia. They fly with Chinese flags and very jingoistic things. They come up with slogans and singing and all those things, etc. So they are, one is called as MMFV in Chinese. This thing, maritime militia, operates from Hainan. Where is Hainan? I will show you. And one more militia operates from, that is known as SBVV. This is in Spratly, near, this operates near Spratly. This operates near Paracel Islands. This operates from Guangdong, the southern province of Guangdong. I'll show you. Guangdong is very close to Hong Kong. This is Hainan Island. You can see the large island here. This is Hainan, where China has a huge submarine base, about which in the Cold War, I'll talk about it. This is from Hainan it operates. The other boats operates from Guangzhou, Guangdong. The Guangzhou is the capital of the Guangdong. Near Hong Kong is that this area. The other militia from various ports on the coast, it operates there. So it has been there, and it is essentially commercial fishing ships. But they China, hits two birds with one stone. That is a beautiful idea created by them. But in the last 10 years, 15 years or so, they have become more and more aggressive. And Chinese Navy may not patrol all these areas, but these militias operate. They not only fish, but also what they do, they ramming into boats from other countries. So if they come to fish, they will go and ram into them, deliberately ram into one. They will damage their boat, damage their sonar, damage their equipments, fishing nets, equipments. Then they will throw debris into their thing. They also fire water cannons into it, and all these things. They many of them will go and garrow them. Garrow, that's a Hindi word, I believe. Garrow them, and 4-5 of them, preventing their movement freely. So they will put loudspeakers and abuse them. So all these are happening. This is done by the militia. This is not exactly the Navy for that. So they are the US and mostly Philippines, who have been at the receiving end of this, say that though they are not government, so they are supported by the Chinese government by giving them subsidies for fuel and even for buying of these boats, repairs, all those things, construction, all those things. Government is supporting this militia, but the idea is they will deny anything. If any problem goes out of control, they will say that it is nothing to do with us, it is done by the fishermen. Problem is between the fishermen of the both countries, and we let us talk about it, rather than they can always say it is nothing official about it. So China has created a degree of deniability. They say it is a commercial fight between the fishermen of both countries, like Indian fishermen from Tamil Nadu and Sri Lankan fishermen fight. So we are not, our Navy is not doing that. So this became very prominent in 2019 when the Chinese militia collided with the Philippines fishing boat, and the Philippines fishing boat submerged also before some of the fishermen are rescued by some Vietnamese fishing boat. So this is known as, according to the experts, security experts, this is an example of China's gray zone tactics. So what they coined, gray zone tactics. Officially they can deny it has nothing to do with Chinese government. Chinese government want peaceful negotiation and resolution of the dispute, but they are using a milder thing. As I said, in Galwan, pushing shoving occurred. Doklam also, stone throwing occurred. There was no firing between the Indian and Chinese soldiers in Doklam or this thing. This is all about, lower level tactics there, but to destabilize other countries, China has been doing. As I say, in November 2021 also, now Chinese and Chinese militia and Filipino ships are also, of course, Philippine ships are also not official government ships, so they are keeping, trying to keep that issue, not going out of control. Some now they are in a standoff with the Philippines in an island called Whitsun Reef in Spratleys. Going on. And US has condemned Chinese action. That is very usual. That's, if they don't condemn only, they have to, even after the Xi Biden meet. So the tensions are not reducing at all between both countries there. So this is a slight change in the tactics. China officially says that it was peaceful negotiations with the parties of ASEAN countries involved in the dispute. But at the same time, they are trying to use their militia to destabilize other countries and furthering their claims and pushing their 9-dash line control, which will give them control of almost all the South China economically. So ASEAN countries, as I said, are powerless to do so, because individually they are too small, and some reluctance is also there in taking American help, because China can hurt them economically, because they are now intertwined with China economically. So some of the countries like Laos and Cambodia want closer integration with China. There is no unanimity among how to deal with China at all. And as I said, in the last 10 years or so, when they thought that India could become a counterweight, that has not also happened, and they are worried about the way India is going right now with the majoritarian rule in India. So the options for ASEAN are very limited. And ASEAN is not please remember, ASEAN is not NATO. ASEAN is not NATO. ASEAN is not a military or security grouping. ASEAN's always focus has been economic grouping to further the livelihood of the people. That's what every country should do so. This is what I always keep on saying. ASEAN countries know that they are never going to become superpower, because they are small countries, and their aim is to as much as possible to and if China helps them to achieve that national goal, why not take China's help? This is what right now it is happening. So it all depends upon, as I said, India should not unnecessarily get involved in the South China Sea trouble. This is what, as I keep on repeatedly saying. Quad, India can be a member, because Quad is not, as I said, not a security organization per se. So Quad can be like BRICS. So it can, India and this thing can be come together. But at the same time, India's focus should be on Indian Ocean, not Indo-Pacific, because India is not strong enough to do that. Indian Ocean area, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Seychelles, about which we have talked about it also, and also in South Asia, and to resolve all the disputes. And always India's focus should be on revival of economic aspects. Then automatically India's status will go up in ASEAN countries. They will come back again. If they feel threatened by China, inevitably in future, then they will come back. But there will be a war in South China Sea? No, there won't be any war, because China knows that already it is a dominant country. Anytime it wants, it can take. The focus of China is not on South China Sea. China will rather maintain status quo in South China Sea. But at the same time, as I said, using such militia, fishing boats, commercial fishing boats, but aggressively they will patrol and try to push Chinese interest there into the South China Sea and threaten the fishing ship of other countries like Philippines and Vietnam, which come to this area for fishing also. So this is what China's tactics will be. They will want more and more economic integration and completion of the economic corridor and the BRI projects in Southeast Asia, which will completely put them under Chinese mercy or command. But India's role is very, very limited. India can talk about, as I said, rightly about freedom of navigation, protecting the sea lanes of communication. In 2016, Philippines, about some of the shoal in Spratly, they took that issue to one tribunal, which China refused to attend. They said this tribunal does not have any locus standi to listen, and China, and obviously one-sided thing, and they gave approval. And US talks about China is not respecting international law, though US itself is not a member of UNCLOS, which set up under which this tribunal operates. And as I said, UK for ICJ itself has said in an unanimous decision to vacate Chagos Island and give it, ask US to get out of Diego Garcia and get that island back to Mauritius. But US doesn't say UK is not following international law. But anyway, that issue was 2016. That has been forgotten almost by everybody, including Philippines, which took that issue to an international tribunal. So the status quo, in my opinion, will be there, and US will try to flare it up. And as I said, next year after the Philippines election, we can expect more closer military collaboration between US and Philippines will buy more American weapons, more F-16s. And Vietnam, US close collaboration will continue. US will continue to conduct naval military exercises with these friendly countries, particularly Japan and Australia in South China Sea. So China will condemn that. Why foreign navies who have no locus standi in South China Sea are coming, etc. I don't expect South East Asian countries to sign this code of conduct with, but there will be closer economic integration after this comprehensive strategic partnership and RECP particularly. And China will speed up all the BRA projects there. So India should stay away because this is not our core area. So China, we have to keep on saying India should follow what Deng Xiaoping said in the 80s. Lie low, bide your time. The time for India is to lie low and focus upon what it should do. And when India grows to $10 trillion economy, let's say in another 15 years, 20 years time, then automatically many doors will be open. Many countries will want India to play a more bigger role in the affairs of that particular region, and ASEAN will definitely not be an exception to this general role. As long as you are weak, ASEAN is not taking India seriously because our economic growth has come down. That is one of the major factors there. So our aim is to get back to that 10% real growth rate, not a. Okay, fine. So this is what I wanted to convey as far as South China Sea dispute is concerned. At India, I gave suggestions what we have to do to further improve relations with East Asia, which is now going off the rails there. So stay away from South China Sea is none of our concern. Yes, in Quad, you can make a general statement about freedom of navigation. Statements are not going to hurt anything, but never join any military alliance, which will be because China in India are India's largest trading partner, and we have an unsettled boundary. So they have a lot of things to hurt India there. So why should we unnecessarily get involved in things which are of no importance to us? Fine. So if it is Indian Ocean, yes, it is important to India. I keep on saying that Pacific is different from India. South China Sea is not Indian Ocean.